Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be covering objectives some more, and I'm going to go online and look for some examples of objectives. I might do a couple of videos with examples of objectives, but let's review some of the things we covered in the previous video. And if you hadn't seen it, it was called What is an Objective? So Bobbitt, who published books on the curriculum in 1918 and 1920, one of them being called The Curriculum, many consider him to be the birth of the curriculum, and he criticized traditional curriculum, and in 1922, Bobbitt stated that education has always aimed at objectives that include both knowledge and required life skills. So when you're creating objectives, they should include both knowledge and required life skills. In 1972, Popham created a bumper stickers that said stamp out all non-behavioral objectives. So you have to understand that there's both non-behavioral objectives and behavioral objectives. And non-behavioral objectives, do you remember what they are? It's not an outward behavior, but inward, such as thought, emotions, feelings, for example, to know, to understand, to realize, to consider, to appreciate, and to learn. Behavioral objectives are things that you can do, such as what you can do with a skill that you learned, such as a life skill, such as you take a driver's ed. And a non-behavioral objective would be maybe to observe and thoughts, maybe to look ahead as you're driving, thinking about what others might do. Whereas a behavioral objective would be something such as tapping on the brakes before you stop to flash your brake lights so that the people behind you notice that you're about to stop, especially if there's like a school bus or something. They are both valuable and needed. Both are needed under different circumstances. Behavioral objectives might contain verbs such as apply, assemble, create, design, make, describe, differentiate, generalize, illustrate, label, remodel, operate, plan, predict, transcribe. You take an art class, so you will be able to draw animals. So your objective might be to learn to draw animals. You take creative writing class, and during it, you might be writing a short story to show that you've learned that skill. So the objective might be learning how to write a short story. If you take an HTML class, and they might have you create a web page using Notepad, and that might be your life skill. As part of your math class, you may learn how to use cash to purchase items and account back change. You might take an English class, and one of the objectives might be to diagram sentences. Usually they only list a few objectives and not every lesson that you might learn during the year or the course, but the major ones. It's usually the learning objectives for taking the course, even though some teachers may create objectives for certain lessons or projects. Creating objectives is usually to be focused on the student and what the student will be able to do, although some of them actually do put course objectives instead of student focused objectives. They say that you should have them student focused. A college syllabus usually contains learning objectives. What do you want them to be able to do with what they learn? What do you want them to be able to do with the knowledge? A cooking class objective could be to learn to plan, prepare, and cook meals with the timing so that they're able to serve the meal and the food all simultaneously. So here's a course that they have online, and I had so many of them, so I had to get rid of like more than half of them because I couldn't have them all open. So after the completion of this course, you'll be able to choose appropriate research topics for college classes, write detailed outlines for research papers, find source material for research papers, take and organize good notes for research, and use appropriate academic tone and language. Document sources by creating a works cited list in MLA format. Avoid plagiarizing your sources. In this course, it's called Introduction to Psychology. The objectives will be, see, this one words it differently. I like the way they word it, and it doesn't just flat out tell you the objective, but it says, what are people most afraid of? What do our dreams mean? Are we natural born races? What makes us happy? What are the causes and cures of mental illness? This course tries to answer these questions and many others, providing a comprehensive overview of the scientific study of thought and behavior. It explores topics such as perception, communication, learning, memory, decision making, persuasion, emotions, and social behavior. We will look at how these aspects of the mind develop in children, how they differ across people, how they're wired up in the brain, and how they break down due to illness and injury. So if you're creating a class, that's very eye-catching when people read it, and it makes them interested in taking the course. But that's their objective, is to learn to answer those questions. So this one right here, it talks about creating a small business website with Weebly. So what are the objectives for this class? And it says to create a Weebly account and select a theme. So these are what you're going to be able to do if you take this class. These are the objectives. The learning objectives: create a domain name and explore editing options, customize your website, add and remove content, add buttons, and publish your website. And this one is English Composition 1. And you can see where I'm at in the upper left-hand corner. But this one also shows course objectives. It says you're going to learn to summarize, analyze, question, and evaluate written and visual text, to argue and support a position, to recognize audience and disciplinary expectation, to identify and use the stages of the writing process, to identify characteristics of effective prose, to apply proper citation practices, to discuss applying your writing knowledge to other writing occasions. And this course is the singer-songwriter specialization. So if you wanted to take this class, this is what you will learn. The basics of playing the guitar, including chords, scales, strumming, and picking patterns. Basic songwriting tools and techniques. How to sing in your preferred genre and style healthfully. How to record, edit, and mix music. So you can see that it says more than what I just read, but you can read it there. And I like throwing a little extra in there. Not only are you learning objectives, but you're seeing where you can take these classes online, so it might be good for your children or for you even. Creative writing, the craft of setting and description. So, in this course, aspiring writings will be introduced to the techniques that masters of fiction use to ground a story in a concrete world. So it talks about from the most realist settings to the most fantastical, writers will learn how to describe the physical world in sharp sensory detail. So this is, I love the way you can just go online and you can just find objectives. And you can see, nowhere do I ever see anybody saying that an objective is to be able to pass a quiz with 70% or 80% accuracy, or to get like 8 out of 10 right. You can, the verbs that they use are measurable, so you don't have to be measurable by tests. And I'll be in homeschooling, we don't want to be measurable by tests. But this course will teach you to do thorough research on a company of your choice. This is interviewing and resume skills. Prepare for traditional interview questions, so you can see the skills that you will get, and you can see what their objectives are. So, and those are interview skills. And this one is for, it talks about, so this one is like photography, and it's on Skillshare, and you go on, they have different courses that you can take, but these are, sometimes you can find objectives very simple, because if they're going to teach a class and they're going to, maybe make money doing it, they might want to put a simple objective in a sentence or two, and you can find them there. So this one just says understanding the basics, but you might want to, right here, this one says iPhone photography, how to shoot and edit conceptual photos on your iPhone. So there's the objective. That's what you're going to be learning. So and I had a lot of these open, but I just went down to the one tab because there's so many of them. This one's creative writing. There's so many different types of creative writing classes that you can take. So this one, how to sell your screenplay. Let's see if I can find another one that I like. How to write your first draft. That's the objective, to learn how to write your first draft. So, how to format your ebook in Adobe. So, and this one, it says formative insights, assessments for learning, communication, learning goals, and success criteria with students. So it talks about learning goals, focus students' attention on what it is they are to learn as opposed to the task they are to complete. But often the task that they complete has to do with what they're going to learn, but it enables students to know what they're learning and why. So you can, I'll scroll down because I didn't want to read all of this. Right here, it says a first step in helping students understand the success criteria is to have a discussion with students so that everyone knows what is expected. And then we go down here. So here are several suggestions for how to construct criteria. It talks about the teacher can demonstrate a specific skill and ask students, what did I just do? As a way to gather criteria. Demonstrating good or bad. Demonstrating how to do the skill well and how to do it poorly. Okay. This right here, this is the part that I wanted to read. Students can be part of the assessment process when they understand the indicators. They can use them to monitor their own learning. Learning goals and success criteria focus students' attention on learning and enable them to compare the actual or current level of performance with the learning goal. So when they see the objective, they understand what the objective is and they can focus on that's what they want to focus on. So I don't know, I just like the way they worded it. So I can't remember if there was another reason I had this in here, but you can pause it to read it if you like. And this one right here, communication objectives to students. This was one of my favorites. It says teacher education programs include training and creative lesson plans, beginning with the consideration of instructional objectives and learning outcomes. Sharing lesson plans with students is a good idea because research suggests that knowledge of objectives can lead to improvements in student achievement. Practical suggestions follow for sharing lesson objectives with students. The objectives you communicate to students should be broad enough to encompass everything the lesson will teach. Research suggests that giving students too narrow a set of objectives may lead them to devalue or ignore other meaningful aspects of a lesson. In addition, broad objectives provide greater flexibility for adapting instruction as needed once the lesson is underway. The objectives you communicate should be specific enough to and content to make clear to the students what the outcomes of their learning will be, what they will know and be able to do, and how they will use their new knowledge and skills. Consider stating objectives both orally and in writing and repeating them during the lesson to remind students why they are learning. Teachers often use verbal and written outlines or summaries of objectives. Providing demonstrations or models of learning products or outcomes is also effective. For example, an art teacher might show a student's drawing that demonstrate the use of perspective to illustrate what students will be able to produce themselves. Or a math teacher might show a math problem that students could not do at the beginning of a series of lessons but will be able to at the end. Consider using questioning techniques to elicit from the students their own statements of objectives or outcome. Their input will likely both reflect and inform your lesson plan. Some teachers ask students to express their ideas for meeting objectives or demonstrating outcomes because research suggests that students who have a stake in the lesson plan and a sense of control over their learning will be more motivated to learn. And that's something when you're homeschooling, that's what we want. We want our students to be more motivated to learn, and we want their input, and we want to know what their interests, where their interests lie, and what they want to learn, and what kind of skills they want to get from taking this class. So that will help you to create objectives. Have your students help you create objectives that interest them. Anyway, there's something else. So there we are going over some objectives, because some people aren't familiar with objectives or what they are or how to write objectives. So hopefully this video helps you. I thank you so much for watching my video. I have a small channel, so I appreciate all my viewers. And please feel free to leave comments. I appreciate all your comments. And I just want to thank you again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.